Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U, tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Jean Mackey. All right, welcome to IT4U, everybody. This is kind of an exciting experiment we're having here. So I'm Jean Mackey, your IT4U host. This is a series of live webinars. We usually do them in Adobe Connect, but we're doing this one in BlueJeans to give it a try. I did put in the chat, if you look at the bubble, little speech bubble in the chat, you can copy that link, but I'll give it to you later also that has some resource links. Accessibility, so if at any point you want to participate in an IT4U episode and you need an accommodation, just let us know. We'll be happy to make that happen. Today, we are doing Experience a BlueJeans video conference. So here we are, and our presenter is Mike Stork from ITS. And I think I'm going to stop sharing right now and turn it over to Mike.
Great. Thank you, Jean. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate everybody popping in early and testing their audio and video. So we're going to go through some best practices and some real basic settings for BlueJeans. And the biggest thing we're showing today is just everybody entering a meeting and activating their cameras and audio. And if you don't have a camera or audio, feel free to just type your questions in the chat pod, which is a thought bubble in the upper right of your screen. And we're going to show a few things. You saw that Jean was just sharing her screen. So we do have 29 or 30 people online, which is great, so we can experience a large number of people for a meeting. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, which is a button in the lower right, and we'll go through each one of you sharing your screen in just a bit, so bear with us. So when I share my screen, it's going to show everything on my screen. So I've clicked away from BlueJeans, and now I'm presenting in full screen in a Google presentation. So let me go back to the beginning. As Jean said, my name is Mike Stork, and I'm media consultant for ITS. I support web conferencing, video conferencing tools, and also video production. And our focus today is just to have you all experience BlueJeans. We're going to go through some layouts and features also. Jean mentioned the Google Doc that has a list of resources, so feel free to click that at any time. You won't be able to click on your screen here, but go to this URL and you'll see a list of resources that we're going to go through. We're also going to share these slides with you.
It's in the chat pod also, and I'll send it out when I send you the recording.
If you have a question, just ask it. You can raise your hand. You can also type in the chat pod. You should probably be using earbuds and mute while you're not talking. If we need to mute you for excessive noise, Adam Rame is here and he's going to mute you. So just wave your hand if we've muted you and you cannot unmute. You should be able to unmute your microphone.
There was a good comment put in the chat pod a moment ago that if you want to keep your microphone muted until you're ready to talk, you can hit the space bar to temporarily unmute and say what you need to say. So the space bar is a great option to just chime in and say something for a second, and then you'll be back on mute after you say what you need to say.
That's correct. So it's a push-to-talk type of feature that you can use with your space bar. You do have to be selected on the BlueJeans window for that to work. And really quickly, we've had you all unblock your pop-ups to activate the BlueJeans add-in, and that is a big step, so we'll share that information with you also. But you'll want to unblock your pop-ups or share that information with people you're inviting to a BlueJeans meeting. You need a browser, of course. Chrome will work today, but very soon Chrome will not install the add-in. They're going to have My Workspace will eventually push an app to your workspace to activate that, but for now, use browsers other than Chrome.
Firefox, Safari, and IE should all work, right?
That's correct. So Firefox, Safari, and IE are the recommended browsers now. Eventually that may change, and we'll send out a communication about that. I guess I want to stop right now and just ask if we have any questions, because this time is really for you all to interact with us, and I'll pop back to my slides to cover a couple more advanced features. But does anyone have any preliminary questions here?
Oh, I see some things in the chat pod. All right.
The screen.
Yeah, just to say hello.
Oh, yes. So we're going to take this time. Actually, let's just go around the room. We do have quite a few people online, but can we have everyone introduce themselves? So we have 35 people online, and if you don't have a microphone, don't worry about it. Just type it in the chat pod. But let's go ahead.
Yeah, just your name and where you work.
And let's start. We'll go alphabetically. I don't know if you all can see that, but Aaron, if you could activate your microphone. Aaron Lane.
Yes, hello. I'm Aaron. Hi, I work in ISO in the Service Management Group.
Thank you, Aaron. Yep, and if you could just say your name. We'll go with Amy. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Amy Franklin. I work on the performance support team in ITS.
Excellent. Amy McDonald.
She may not have a mic.
Wait a few seconds here. We're seeing a chat too. Thank you for all the other people that are chiming in. Bob Harold, do you have a microphone?
Yes, I'm with you on that.
Thanks, Bob. And Brian S. Wait a few seconds here.
And we do have some questions we'll address after the introductions in the chat pod.
Okay.
Great. Brian's introducing himself in the chat pod. So Charlene, do you have a microphone, camera, if you'd like?
Oh. This is Charlene Eagle.
Great. Welcome.
Where do you work, Charlene?
Sorry, I'm with the BSA pool.
Welcome.
You're Information and Technology Services.
Yeah, at ITS, yeah.
We're not all ITS.
Chris Green, if you want to introduce yourself, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Chris Green. I work in the Office of the Chief Information Officer for the U of M hospitals and health centers. So I work in MCIT.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Welcome. Debbie?
I work in the Office of Development, the Finance and Admin area.
Thank you. Janet Ross?
Ambulatory care.
Thank you, Janet. Janice Williams? Just checking the chat, too, to make sure that people actually have... Okay, here, I think this is Janice.
Yep, Janice can't hear us, and she's having some browser problems, just like she said she did yesterday.
Okay, Janice, if you may need to exit and enter in a different browser and make.
I think she split. I think she
Okay.
just walked away.
We're gonna keep going here.
Yeah, she's back.
Okay, we have. I'm gonna keep going down the line. Thank you. We've heard from Janine, but Janine, if you want to introduce yourself, go ahead.
Hey, I don't know if you can hear me, but Janine Kapsaris. I work in AIS Enabling Technologies, doing this on my phone. So, hi.
That's excellent. Thank you, Janine. And this is a great use of the mobile app, so appreciate
it. Okay.
And Jennifer Love, if you want to introduce yourself. All right, I'm not sure if Jennifer has a microphone, but maybe we can come back to her. Judy Smutek.
Yes.
Judy, hey there.
Yep.
Judy, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, I just joined, so I don't even know what people are saying.
Just say your name and where you work.
Okay, I'm Judy Smutek, and I work in ISO at Arbor Lakes.
And not everybody knows what ISO is.
Okay, Infrastructure Services and Operations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's a good point. So anybody that's just joined, we're just going down alphabetically and having all the participants introduce themselves, hopefully with their microphone and camera. But if you don't have that, just type it in the chat pod, which is a thought bubble in the upper right of your screen. So I see Laurie Herman's online. Laurie, you want to introduce yourself?
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hi, Laurie Herman. I'm a business process analyst in service management, also in ISO infrastructure services at ITS.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Laurie. And notice if you don't have, Laurie didn't have her camera activated or doesn't have a camera, which is absolutely fine, and we hear her audio and we see a little visual representation that person's talking. So I'm going to keep going down the list. Linda, sure, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Linda Scher. I work in the Office of State Outreach, which is part of government relations.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Sure.
I see Peg Lutz is online, but she doesn't have a camera or microphone. So welcome, Peg, and feel free to type in the chat pod. Keep going down the list. Mary Jane Shand, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Mary Jane Shand. I work in solution design and delivery, part of ITS at ASB.
Thank you. Nancy Harris, you want to introduce yourself?
Nancy Harris, Department of Comparative Literature in LS&A.
Great.
Thank you. Nicole Ahrens?
No, it won't connect it.
Nicole, are you able to hear us and see us okay? We may come back. Nicole, feel free to type in the chat pod if you're having problems with your audio or video. Patty Giorgio, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Patty Giorgio with ITS Communications.
Welcome, thank you. Patty Postal?
Hi, I'm Patty Postal. I'm with the Health System. I'm in the Office of the Executive Vice President for Medical Affairs.
Thank you, Patty. Portia Bonner? And Portia, if you're having problems, she says she's here in the chat pod, so
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Great.
Going to keep going down the list. Rachel, could you introduce yourself, please? ITS Service Management, thank you, in the chat pod. Regis Vogel?
Oh, I see.
And notice that I'm sharing my screen and I'm clicking between the chat pod and the participant list here. In case you're wondering, this is my view, which is all of you have this ability to view the participants and the chat pod. So Regis, let us know in the chat pod if you're having audio, video problems. Robert Norris, could you introduce yourself? And I'll just say again, just in case we had somebody pop in late, we're just going down the list of participants alphabetically, and everyone's introducing themselves either with their camera and audio or with the chat pod. So, Robert, are you there?
I'm a BSA with the recruiting and admissions team.
Okay.
Thank you. Robin Nolan? Checking the chat pod.
I think Robin introduced in the
chat
pod.
Department of Communication Studies at LS&A. Thank you. Ryan Viss?
Hi, I'm in the Service Management Group in ITS.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. Shelley Schock?
I thought I heard something.
All right, we'll come back to Shelley. Let us know if I'm seeing something in the chat pod here.
Cheryl already introduced herself.
Portia is with the U of M Ambulatory Care, so thank you, Portia. Cheryl already introduced herself.
In the pod, yeah.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. And Tom Ammerman, please.
Hi, I'm Tom Ammerman, and I'm a manager in the technical resource pools in ITS.
Great.
Thank you, Tom. Great. Well, this is wonderful, everyone. The 35 people online, mainly about 80% of the people using their microphone and camera. So that's wonderful.
We've got several questions in the chat pod that came in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, Robin asked, is this similar to Adobe Connect where you have a certain number of seats?
Great question, Robin. There's 100 seats or endpoints for Blue Jeans. So 99 other people than you can be in a live meeting.
We just heard from Tom. Tom asked if we're going to cover the use of the video conferencing equipment that's in some of the conference rooms.
Like we have right now.
Excellent question, Tom. I think we'll have time. That's a little bit more advanced, but really quickly I'll just say that we are using a Cisco SX20 conference room system to broadcast to you today, and that's a little bit more advanced, but we have shared some links that go over that, and if we have time, I'll come back to that at the end.
Yeah, and we had a question on the chat pod about, we see that Gene and Mike's cameras are muted, but we're still seeing them.
Excellent question. So the question was that you're seeing us, our Gene and Mike Stork's cameras are muted, so these are the stations, and since we're in a room using the room system, you're seeing us on a wide shot, if you will, on a different system. We are logged into our laptops so we could share your screen. We did it that way, and we wouldn't want to use the audio and video on these because we would be having additional microphones, and I don't want this to make a big noise, but we have a microphone on the table here from our room system.
Okay.
And great questions. Keep them coming.
Had a few browser issues that people were commenting on. The question about cameras, and I think Cheryl asked, what is an optimal number for active participants within Blue Jeans so it doesn't get too busy or confusing?
So, excellent question, Cheryl. So, Adam is a moderator, even though he's logged in with my account because I created the room, but he is doing some manual work at muting people's microphones if we're getting excess noise. Like, I don't want to pick on Janine, but she she was on her mobile device, so we had a little bit of motion. So we had to talk through Janine either muting her own microphone or as a moderator will mute the microphone. So what is the optimal number? I guess that would be however many you think you can handle. We have this is a perfect segue because we're getting feedback here. So Adam is muting people's microphones right now to figure out who is creating the feedback of double audio. So the number one way of troubleshooting this is to have everyone on the call use earbuds or headphones, or that's number one. Everybody uses headphones, you're likely not to have the feedback problems. Number two, you could have everybody enter, make sure the microphone works, and then mute it. And as Patty pointed out earlier, you can mute your microphone and then push to talk, if you will, with your space bar. So go ahead.
And I will demonstrate that now. That's what I'm doing.
Very nice, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. Yes.
Chris wanted to know, do you recommend having somebody, not the speaker or lead, manage the chat pod? When you have this many people, yeah, I would.
Absolutely. So I don't want to discourage you from having your own meeting, but often you have some people there that can help. So it's nice to delegate someone to monitor the chat pod, and that maybe delegate someone, that could be the moderator, but you should probably have somebody in charge of the moderator role, which is basically muting and unmuting people's microphones, because you as the presenter need to be focusing on your content.
And speaking of content, should we get back to your...
There's a few more questions flowing in. Are presenters able to control muting of microphone and turning off participant video? We just addressed that a little bit. Yes, we can. The moderator can mute them. Margaret asked, is there an option to automatically mute participants on entry?
Excellent question, Margaret. So you can set your room. There's an advanced settings for your room, and I will show you that in a bit, and we have documentation with that in our links. But you can select a checkbox for your meeting settings and have that be the default that all participants are muted upon entry. And that's a very clean way of handling a lot of people in your room. But
Yeah.
be forewarned, if you do that, you're probably not going to be able to talk them through audio feedback problems. So I guess that's a good time to say that if you can, get in the room 10 minutes beforehand and encourage all your other participants to do that also. I know that sometimes these conference rooms are booked back to back, but it's always good to have a little bit of lead time to get through the AV problems.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and pop back to my slides here. And we'll keep the questions coming, though. I just want to keep the flow going here. We talked a little bit about video conference room equipment, and I'll get into that later. But I do want you to know that Blue Jeans can also be used as just a phone connection. So you can use your Blue Jeans room in place of some of these Meet Me lines that are often not available. So this room that we created, you could just have everybody could just call the number into Blue Jeans and type in the ID.
And I've done that just on a regular phones, and I had 6 people. We were doing a conference call, and it worked just great.
And something else to note is that when you have those Meet Me lines, you cannot often tell who's called in. Like if you had over 30 people, you might not know who's on that line. If you use Blue Jeans, it's going to give you a caller ID readout, and later on you also can get the numbers. So you'll know that so-and-so called from their cell phone. We have a use case of where the significant incident team uses it. So they want to know who's calling in, and maybe after the fact, so they can take roll call, if you will.
And if at least one of you is logged in through your computer, you can record the whole call too, which is handy.
Right. And there's no additional charge, so those Meet Me lines do have an additional charge. And like I said, here at ITS, the ones that are available as a resource are often already taken on a Thursday morning.
Okay.
And keep the questions coming in. I'm just going to go through some basic things here, but Blue Jeans is a multi-purpose product. A value add is that you've created it with your UMISH login, so you can do single sign-on now, and you don't have to remember a separate password. We mentioned it takes place with a teleconference phone line, and you also can connect with room system equipment. So this is a value add where a lot of the conference rooms around campus either have equipment or are being installed, and you can connect, as we are today, with the camera in the corner of the room and the tabletop microphone. Go ahead.
I put links to videos on how to use the room systems in the chat pod.
Excellent.
They're called the SX10 or SX20. We're using the
SX20
today in Boyer 213.
That's right. So that's an example of a Cisco unit, and let us know if you have questions about that, but we'll direct you to some resources to learn more about that.
Ryan had a question about the calling in. Is there a way to let people call in and not have to enter a code, as in use a standard phone number to reach a specific Blue Jeans session?
I think I did that, and I just had to get in there first, and then people just called the number. Now maybe you do have to put in the...
I think you do. We'll have to look that up, but I do think you have to call Blue Jeans and then enter the ID.
Yeah, that's right. You still need the ID.
So excellent question, Ryan. I think for now, and we'll follow up if it's different, I don't think you can dial a direct number, because what you're doing is you're calling the Blue Jeans MCU or cloud-based video system and then entering an ID. And it's a good point that each room has a unique identifier. So notice on my screen I'm highlighting this room that I created. It created a unique identifier that is 876-647-156. So that is this room, if you will. If we wanted to share the browser link, it would be bluejeans.com/ and then that unique identifier. If we wanted to call into the Blue Jeans number, we would type in the meeting ID of that digit. And each person that has a Blue Jeans account also has a instant meeting, so that will be a different identifier, but your instant meeting will always be that same identifier that you can share. And it's okay for you to use your instant meeting for all your meetings, but you may eventually want to create a meeting for each one, which would be a separate identifier. And that's a nice way, because then it won't say Michael's meeting, it will say weekly stand-up, and everybody could use that repeatable ID.
And Patty pointed out, if you hit the meeting room info at the bottom, you can see all the information about the meeting that you might want to share with other people.
Right, and I want to just kind of show a little bit here. Let me see. I'm not logged in with that. I don't know if it will let me log in twice, but I'm just going to see here.
Is there anything I can do?
I'm just going to go to My Meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our main screen in Blue Jeans. And I mentioned an instant meeting. That's Michael's meeting. Or you can schedule a meeting. And notice the one that everybody's in today is IT4U45. And there's our unique identifier. And if I'm not going to click Join Meeting because I'm already in there in another instance, but I just wanted you to see this is your Blue Jeans homepage, and this is where you can create meetings or start your instant meeting. So I'm going to pause for a second to ask for any further questions.
There was one other one that we hadn't cleaned up yet from Chris Green, and he's asking, it seems like the most active speaker gets the spotlight.
Are we going to show different?
That's correct. Let's go ahead and step back into the Blue Jeans meeting, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. We can always start again. But everyone should be seeing active speaker, which is our conference room right now. And Adam, well, why don't we just have somebody? So, Patty, could you say a few words?
Unmute her.
Yep, your microphone's still muted, Patty.
Did we mute her and we have to unmute her?
Can you unmute her? I don't think you can. She has to do it herself.
You're still muted, Patty. Oh,
Okay,
there you go.
now I'm unmuted. I'm sure you're all wondering why I called you here today.
Nice.
Excellent. So now you see Patty takes active speaker. Do you want to change a layout, Adam?
Yep, I'll change it to constant presence.
And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen so you can see some of this. But notice in the lower left, you can change these layouts. So
but now we can't see the layout.
Up
there. I gotcha.
They will. Give me 1 second. But there are 3 different layouts in the lower left that you can click these icons. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you're actually experiencing a full view of everybody. And notice that we have 9 people we call this the Brady Bunch layout. We have actually 33 people in the room here, but it can populate up to 9 people. And we may still have active presence, so whoever's talking is going to populate. But let's kind of go around and... I'm
going to go to active speaker because we haven't shown that one yet.
So Adam's turning the layout to active speaker now. And Tom, if you want to say a few words, you popped up as the active speaker, so go ahead.
Okay, I can say a few words. Hi, everybody.
Nicely done.
Thanks again. So
I don't see myself. Actually, on my screen, I don't see myself. I assume everybody else is seeing me.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Tom. So these layouts are for what you're seeing, or if you're the moderator, you can choose it for the recording or the whole group. But you're never really going to see yourself because Blue Jeans, the tool, is assuming you want to see everyone else. Once in a while, there will be a small thumbnail that could pop up, and you can move that around. So let us know if you're seeing that. But you could, Tom, I don't know if I'll have time to go through it today, but if you would be interested in having that thumbnail, it probably is somewhere on a dual display, or let me know if you see that.
And I've put the format back to active presence.
So he's back to active presence.
And
so
there's a couple of questions coming
All right, let me get back to the chat pod. All right, we have, where is the meeting info link?
Just put it in.
So meeting info link. So
Yep, Gene just put it in the chat pod.
Gene's shared the Google Doc that has resources. I think Ryan's asking about the meeting information, maybe how I got to my my Blue Jeans homepage and I was able to see everything. So let me know. And Ryan, if you want to use your microphone, go ahead and just activate it and talk to us.
Someone just made a comment earlier that there was a meeting information link to tell you everything about this particular meeting.
Patty had said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm having some navigational issues. I'm not seeing that link.
And actually, there's another way to get it where I see it at the top, Brian, by the Blue Jeans logo. There's a meetings tab. And if you click that, it should open a new tab or window for you, and it should show all your meetings like Mike was just demonstrating a moment ago.
That white bar at the top?
Yep, there's a white bar at the top near the Blue Jeans logo. If you click meetings, you should be able to drill down into any of your meetings and get the information about your meetings, what the URL is, the code for it.
Okay, I do see that. I just don't see any information about this meeting.
The white bar doesn't show if you're in full screen mode, though. So,
Good point. Yeah, and so the meeting information, usually if it's somebody else created the meeting, they would probably share that in the calendar invite. But you, for example, you may not have created this meeting, so you wouldn't see it in your Blue Jeans homepage. That Blue Jeans homepage only has the meetings that you created.
Oh, excellent. We just got a comment in the chat pod. If you click the little person icon with the plus sign in the lower right corner, you can invite a participant from there, and it also gives you all of the meeting information that you could share with someone.
And I'm going to go ahead and show that.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Ah, that's what she was talking about.
So here we go, and what we're talking about is right here. You can add people or meeting information down here, so I could copy this information and share it from within the meeting. And this is the same information that we were showing from the home page. So,
and there's your phone dial-in information as well.
That's correct. But notice that you do have to call this number and type in the meeting ID.
Followed by the hashtag.
Sure. But if we needed to give that information to someone ad hoc, that's where we would go. So, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Good. Great questions. Is there any more questions in the chat pod? And I want to encourage people to just activate their microphone and start talking too. We kind of want to experience the chaos of having people talking over each other a little bit here.
There was a question about 5 people. You see that?
Yeah, Lori, we're getting a little feedback from your mic. I don't know if you have earbuds that you could use that would probably cancel.
She may have a question.
I do. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I had that thumbnail when I first logged into the meeting, which was cool because I could drag it around. Oh, it's back. How did that come back? It just. Oh. I have no idea.
If you change the layout, or not the layout, but if you click some of the functions in the right nav bar, sometimes
like the chat,
sometimes that little thumbnail image of yourself will disappear. Is that what you're talking about?
No, there's a little thumbnail of you guys.
Oh, right. Oh, so the reason it probably went away is because I started sharing my screen, and now that I'm stopped sharing my screen, the thumbnail goes away because
it's gone now.
We're now populating the main screen.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions.
Let's see. That Regis
Hi,
said.
Hi, Regis. How are you?
Hey, how are you doing? My question is, we are in a room with 5 people. I don't know if you can hear us very well.
I understand this, but no, I had a thumbnail. I had a mini screen, a pop-out with them, but so he.
Hold on one second, Regis.
When he expands his screen or takes it away from Sway, which I was like, no, I actually still want it up there, but I guess it's just a limitation.
Got it.
Regis, go ahead.
I was saying that we have in a room here with 5 people that are generally administrators and that they are setting meetings for other people. And the question here is, how can they set up a Blue Jean for other users? What is the best practice here? And did you have any tips for them?
How admins can set up Blue Jeans for other users.
How administrators can set up meetings for other users?
Set up a Blue Jeans account?
They can. Go ahead.
Just imagine with the other technology that we are using, like a phone line, it's generally something that an admin can set up when they set up an invite. And how can they do that with when they are setting up for other people? Do they have to use the user of the other people? Or what is the scenario you can?
Thank you. That's a good question. And I shared my screen and I'm showing my Blue Jeans homepage again. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure there's not a way for the admin to take over the calendar or account for their administrator. But what they can do is they can create a meeting, and I'm going to hit schedule a meeting, and it has to have some kind of title. I like to put repeat meeting, even if it's not a repeating meeting. You can edit this later, but what this does is it allows the unique identifier to be to last more than one
Reusable,
instance.
yeah.
Reusable. So click repeat meeting as a best practice. Go to advanced meeting options. Click moderator less, and these advanced options are up to you if you want to use them or not. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to point out moderator less.
Because if somebody gets in there before you, they can get into the meeting if you created the meeting.
That's correct. And not only that, they could use the meeting without the moderator. So the admin assistant, it just allows the meeting to be a little bit more accessible. You can access it early, and other people can use it. I would want to hit schedule or save. You can also make these your default settings for every meeting you create. And before we jump out of that, somebody asked about silent participant entry mode, and notice I have that checked. So I could make that the default for every meeting I create in the future. So when I hit schedule, it's now going to populate on my home page, and here's the meeting I just created. And I could just share the URL, and it also has other details like if I copy the meeting details, I could come in here and paste it in an email or a calendar instance, and notice that we have the telephone number information, we have the URL. Some of this information is not as important for people if we don't think they're connecting with different tools or a room system. I may not include that.
And isn't it also true that when you schedule a meeting, you get an email with all this information, confirmation?
Thank you, Gene. Excellent segue. I'm going to jump to my email. And look, I got an email with all this information. It says do not forward because we don't want to share this instant. We want to populate this in a message. It's just a little bit cleaner. So I don't want to confuse people and send them this exact invite, but what it did is it gave you an email notification about it, and it also populated on my Google Calendar. Notice I have that on my Google Calendar also. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Fairly advanced, but what I really want you to take away is you just created a meeting, and you can copy the URL or the ID, meeting ID, and share that in your Google Calendar via email or in a chat message. Just copy this everywhere so people know how to get to it.
Yeah. To circle back to Regis's question, the copy meeting details link is probably most useful for an admin assistant because it tells them how to dial in by phone, how to connect through a URL. It gives them all the options that they might want to connect through.
That's right, but it also gives you some information that confuses people.
Yeah.
like if they don't want this, then just go in there and delete it.
Mm-hmm. And we just have a couple minutes.
I agree with you, Mike. Thank you for the example. I agree with you that a lot of that information can confuse people that don't have a clue of what it is.
Thanks for the question. And we only have a few minutes left, so Adam, let me know if there's any questions in the chat pod. Go ahead.
Bob would really like us to talk about the slider at the bottom when sharing your screen.
Let's go with that one first. There's a slider at the bottom of your screen that if you only see it if I'm sharing my screen. So let me share it again. And I can't visually show you this because I'm sharing it, but why don't you slide between my screen and our image. So you're all going to have to do this on your own because I'm sharing my screen and I can't show you and slide at the same time. But what you can do is if you wanted to see the full screen of the screen share, you could have that populate your whole screen, or you could see Gene and I's video image full screen, or a hybrid of that, half and half. So that is a nice feature of Blue Jeans too, is that...
Somebody's trying to talk.
Go ahead.
Somebody trying to talk?
So if you're not seeing the slider, hover over the bottom part of your screen and it will pop up. And again, I apologize, I can't actually show this because it's not giving me the option to slide because I'm the one sharing my screen. I'm going to pop out of that. Let me know if you have any questions on that, but that was an excellent question. Does anybody else want to chime in? Or
there are a couple of chat pod questions. Patty, want to know screen sharing options? Is that right? You see that, Adam?
Yeah, let me get back to chat.
Screen sharing options are, I'm sharing my screen and now I'm actually sharing the Blue Jeans meeting we're in, but notice we do have screen sharing options. I usually like to hit share entire screen because that gives me the functionality to move between tabs, but if you wanted to, you could just share Google Chrome, whatever's open. So it's giving me the option to share the programs that are open right now.
And Mike, am I right that as the moderator, if somebody's sharing their screen and they don't know how to stop sharing, that you can do that for them?
That's an excellent point. So if I want to show you a quick hint. So say I just shared my screen and I don't know how to stop sharing it. Gene, do you have the option to share your screen right here?
Right there.
Go ahead and do that. Share your. Notice how it just kicked me off and it took precedence for the next person.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, well, not only is that handy because we don't have to say, you have to stop sharing before I can share, but if Jean just wanted to relinquish control from me, she could share her screen for just a minute and then stop sharing, which she just did. And now we're back to a format of nobody's sharing. So hopefully that made sense. The takeaways are if I were already sharing my screen and I couldn't figure out how to stop sharing, Jean is able to share her screen, which would take priority over mine. And then if she really didn't want to share anything at all and we wanted to go back to the video, she would just stop sharing again and we would be at a full populated video image of everyone in the meeting.
We're almost out of time. Is there more in the chat?
Chat pod questions are all caught up. Mike had some videos that you could maybe mention real quick.
So feel free to activate your microphone and ask a question, but while we're waiting, Jean's going to share her screen and show you another tab that you may see. And go back and share your screen instead of PowerPoint. Share entire screen. And then hover over, click this tab. So there's a little landscape.
Not shared. Gotta hit share again.
This one again. And then hover over this little landscape icon. The icon between the chat bubble and the participant people icon, there's like a landscape icon. And what it is you can upload videos into your room or Blue Jeans area and you could share them in the meeting. So it would be cleaner than just sharing your screen and playing a video from a tab. If you had a video file, you could upload it and play it within Blue Jeans.
And we are about out of time.
We're pretty much out of time. Does anyone have one last quick question? And if not, I'm going to...
Yep, it goes with recording. They asked what format is the recording in?
The recordings are in MP4 format, so they're heavily compressed, but they look good. But it's MP4 format is a very standard usable format for video.
And you actually get an email to tell you when they're ready and it links you right to them where you can download them.
Absolutely. And really quickly, the best practice is for you to go into your meetings and hover over recordings, please, Gene. and you have an ability to download that MP4 recording from BlueJeans. And the best practice is to download that and host it somewhere else like my video or YouTube, because recordings only last 90 days, and we don't want you to lose any content.
And Janice asked, is there a BlueJeans recorded webinar? So we'll make this recording.
Yeah.
This recording
will be it.
This recording will be available,
Yep.
and along with other ones, but we encourage you to follow up because we want to keep these short, and there's lots more advanced features that we could probably go through, and we want to answer your questions, so follow up with Gene or myself. Thank you.
And please don't use protected health information in BlueJeans videos. And whenever you're doing anything like this, you got to look at the sensitive data guide. Just Google that and get that on the UMISH site. Okay? But I think you all know that. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Congratulations for trying this stuff out. And I think we're going to end the room and kick everybody out.